Hello there, fellow cultists. This is DM Nell, and I am back with another episode of Shadow the Demon Lord Talk, or as I like to refer to it as Subtle Talk. And in this episode of Subtle Talk, we get dark. We get really fucking dark as we delve into a cult. And this cult is called the Black Sun Dawn. Now, this is a supplement that came out back in 2018. And I have not had an opportunity to use it as of yet. In fact, I really didn't do a deep delve, whatever, into this supplement until recently. When I first got it, I just kind of read through it and I was like, yeah, that's a cult. But I really didn't see how it would fit into anything I was doing at the time. So now that I'm starting to look at a new campaign and starting to think about what I want to include in that campaign, I started going over some of the supplements that I have in my Shadow the Demon Lord vault, and came across this one again and did a closer read. And I really want to include this in my next campaign. In fact, it's probably going to dominate a campaign because there's so damn much information here. This is a 17-page supplement, and it's part of the legacy of Shadow for the Shadow of the Demon Lord, which means it builds on the lore of the world. But it's got, and it does that beautifully. I mean, it's got tons of lore, and it's got a great villain, a great organization, which is the cult, and lots of monsters. So this could easily be built into a campaign unto itself. But I actually don't think there is... you could build a campaign out of this, but I don't think I want to do that. What I think I want to do is make it part of a larger campaign. Because although this is a very good supplement, and this lore is fantastic, and this cult is amazing, I don't think I could stretch it out into a full campaign, especially into the master tier, because the creatures that are here and the villains that are presented here really aren't powerful enough to challenge a master tier group. So I think what we have here is probably the start of a campaign or the backbone of a campaign. So I could very easily see this being the impetus to starting a campaign, and then the direct driver of adventures for the expert tier. So, and that's kind of what I have in mind. So I think what I'm thinking about doing here is having a campaign, or building a campaign, where the starting tier and the novice tier are loosely tied into this supplement. But then the expert tier, so that would be levels 3 through 6, would be basically a deep dive into the supplement and everything that the supplement involves. And then the master tier would have to be an expansion of the things that were presented here, but ratcheted up to 11, or 7 through 10, as it were. So, so what am I talking about? What the hell is a supplement, and why should you care? So let's rewind a little bit, and let's just talk about the supplement itself. So, like I said, it came out in 2018, and of course, it's written and designed by the Demon Lord himself, Robert Schwalb. We have all the credits here: editing, proofreading, Jay Spite. We've seen all these names before. Mr. Schwalb uses many of the same people for his products, and they all do an excellent job. Art direction, Kara Hamilton and Robert Schwalb. Layout and graphic design, Kara Hamilton. And then interior illustrations by Jack Kaiser, Eric Lofgren, Mirko Paganesi, and Matteo Spirito. And so I don't know who did this painting here, but it's just fantastic. And this painting depicts two of the members of the Black Sun Dawn, which we will get to in a little bit. But it's just a wonderful painting. I love it. Creepy. And very evocative. So this is the first page of the supplement, and the first page really just kind of talks about an overview of what this supplement provides. And then we start off with some background and some of the stuff that brought about the existence of the Black Sun Dawn. So everything in this supplement is owed to the existence of a relic that is called the Black Sun manuscript. And the lore that's provided here basically states that this is pretty much an infamous relic that's been around for a long time. Many people believe that the manuscript was written by Ashrakal, the Witch King. But there's evidence to suggest that the manuscript has actually been around much, much longer than that. So there, already it's pretty evocative. I mean, you got a manuscript here. Some people think that the worst villain that the world has ever seen was responsible for it, but it turns out that even he is not responsible for the evil that is contained in this book. It goes back even farther than him, back probably to the earliest days of creation. And so this is suggested by the fact that evidence of the existence of this the Black Sun manuscript has been seen and found across the world, or across the known world. And it gives some examples here, like there's something called the Anamandi scrolls that were found in sealed urns hidden away in a cave on the face of Mount Saija. And within these scrolls, there's descriptions of the Black Sun manuscript and examples of how it was used. Then archaeologists excavating the ruins of Umessa, the queen of the oh shoot, I forget what they're called. The Edene, that they were the first invaders into rule. Queen Umessa, she created the first empire and left a lot of ruins. And so archaeologists delving into these ruins found one place that depicted a devil offering her a tome that looks very similar to how the manuscript is described as appearing. Then there are caves in the City of Adventure, or under the City of Adventure, which is a place on the Pirate Isles, where there is a painting on one of the cavern walls showing a serpent person reading from a book that looks, again, like how the manuscript is described as appearing. These and other clues suggest that the Violet Tome might have originated at the dawn of the world, or perhaps even farther back. So that's some of the lore that's presented here, which is just wonderful. I love when the world is expanded by just introducing new and interesting lore like this. This is just what makes this campaign setting so fantastic in my eyes. Okay, so, and it doesn't stop there. There's more. So lots of people have claimed to own the book, and it goes into some of the NPCs that supposedly had acquired the book and what had become of them. Nothing good seems to ever come of anybody who possesses the book. But some could say that that's because those people were not worthy. But anyway, it talks about some like Agadal Titanicus, who's an occultist that lived 600 years ago. And he used the Black Sun manuscript, was discovered by the Order of Light, and Yeah, apparently he had 66 partially eaten and rotten corpses found in his lair when they dragged him out, which he claims was as a result of a demon that he accidentally let loose from the book's pages. Then it talks about Ilyana Meritova, a witch of surpassing power and ability that dwelled in Bulgaria, who was unfortunately found in a very bad state after she had used the book. Basically, her eyes were torn out, and she was bleeding from her backside with excrements smeared across her face, and she died screaming days later after she was found. But her corpse and the book with it disappeared from her chambers. So you don't think that's going to come back again? Yeah, I'm definitely using that shit. Okay, so Black Sun has surfaced many times over the decades, and so on and so forth. So it talks a lot about the, gives a lot of lore about the Black Sun manuscript. It also gives you the actual game stats for the Black Sun manuscript, which I think is just scratching the surface. I think you could probably add a lot more to this if you wanted to, but basically it gives you the description of the book. It gives you the powers that the book provides the one who masters it. And it takes like 240 hours of reading and study to consume the book's full contents. So basically, you're spending a month or so pouring through this book to figure out, and then once you do, you have to make you actually gain 3 corruption. There's no save here. You just gain 3 corruption when you finish reading the book. So it definitely stains you or stains your soul. But as a result of that, you can make challenge rolls to recall information regarding taboo subjects, the occult and magic with 3 boons, so that's definitely useful. Magic of the Black Sun, you discover the forbidden madness and time traditions. And of course, the madness tradition appears in the occult philosophy supplement. Then you can call on the elder gods, and basically by doing that, you are summoning monsters out of the book, which you can, depending on your power or your rank, or the rank of the spell that you use to summon the monster, you can either produce a small monster, medium monster, large monster, or huge monster. And each time you perform the ritual, you have to make a will challenge roll or with 3 banes, or you gain a 1d3 insanity. So every time you do that, you could risk going insane. All right, then once we get the background of the book, so the book is pretty much what is the source of evil that this supplement delves into. So now we talk about where the book is currently and who has it in its possession. So it talks about the Cabal, the Golden Key, starting with a figure by the name of Rathran Crux, C-R-U-X, Crux, Rathran Crux. Doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, but you have to say it a few times, I guess, before you can master it. So Rathran Crux was a student of the Academy of Occult Philosophy. The Academy is a long-standing university, basically, in the City of Wonders, a city known as Lidge, which is one of the cities of the Confederation of 9 Cities. One of my favorite cities, in fact. And the Academy of Occult Philosophy, that is where many people go to study and learn about magic. All things magic. And so this student, a very young, promising student who had really shown an aptitude for magic at an extremely young age, was inducted into the academy at an extremely young age. And by the time he was 13, he was actually instructing other students in the academy. So he was very very much a person born into magic. So Rathren Crux is a student and a teacher in the Academy of Occult Philosophy when he starts to delve into the hidden places in the Academy. And the reason he does this is because even though he's pretty much a brilliant wizard in training here, he's also kind of an outcast. And so, all the other students think he's weird because he's so damn smart, and he's so damn good with magic at such a young age. He kind of becomes an outcast, even though he's respected by the university. He's kind of also feared somewhat, but he starts drawing these other outcasts kind of to him. So they kind of form this cabal, which they call the Cabal of the Golden Key, because his followers kind of believe that he's going to be the key to help them master magic and become powerful unto themselves. So he's got this group of followers, and so they're doing magic, and so he's trying to find places in the academy where they can study their magic and all that stuff. And he starts delving into these hidden chambers and forbidden chambers in the academy, where he finds a stack of books that's been hidden away. And within these books, he finds one that looks particularly disturbing, and it's the picture of the book right here. And it turns out to be the manuscript of the Black Sun. So, as stated earlier, Rathren Crux was pretty smart. So he, just by the appearance, he can tell that this is an evil tome. And so he, starts delving into the tome. But before he does, he protects himself as much as he possibly can from the vile effects that the tome would potentially have upon him. But even that was not sufficient to protect him. And he starts getting changed by the book. And then he starts to practice some of the rituals in the book. He starts bringing some of his followers into this, and they start doing more and more depraved experiments. So word of this starts getting out, and the university, the people that run the university start to get worried that something is happening within their halls that shouldn't be. Rathren Crux understands, and he foresees that they could have some problems if they continue doing their experiments and such in the occult, in the academy. So he talks his rich dad into buying him basically a house or a mansion where he can live close to the academy. So he moves his Cabal of the Golden Key into this house, and under the house there's some dungeons that he had built. Or that were already there. It doesn't really state whether the dungeons were already there or not. I suppose that they're probably already there, given the time frame that we're talking about here. But so anyway, this house is built. It's got a good hiding place under the house where they can perform their forbidden rituals. And so him and his cultists, or his followers, they go down there and they start practicing their magic, summoning monsters, and so on and so forth. Now, that's still that moves the problem from the academy itself into the larger city of Lidge. So there's these monsters that start popping up that the group summoned but couldn't quite control. Some experiments that they're doing that they had to cast out because didn't turn out the way they expected, or they couldn't control them, or whatever. And so what ends up happening is that there is a organization that is put together to find and root out what the source of the evil is that is causing these things to happen in Lidge. And this organization is called the the Convocation. So all this happens over the course of what's referred to as the Summer of Madness, but it's actually for a full year, but I guess it comes to a head in the Summer of Madness. And so during the Summer of Madness, this group called the Convocation comes together. And this group is led by a witch named Sayal Refrema. Sayal Refrema brings together a group of powerful arcanists. Among them is the Puce Wizard of the Tower Arcane, Clute the Profane, who always traveled with via palanquin with an entourage of oiled young men, of course, and Parzu, the Master of the Seven Doors. The Convocation brought to bear their considerable might to ferret out the threat against their city, but Crux, with his mastery of magic and his alien patrons, managed to avoid the Convocation. So, for a time anyway. But the Convocation finally managed to find the source of where all this stuff was going down, and they descended upon the Cabal's house. And unfortunately, the Cabal had already evacuated. But they found what was left behind. Basically, was Rathran had slaughtered his entire family and servants and all that stuff, and all kinds of weird abominations and things that were found in the workshops within. So the Convocation basically burned the place down to the ground. And they tried to find this group, but the group managed to escape. And where they went to avoid capture was to a place where they felt like they could work without all the scrutiny that they were getting in Lidge. So Rathran Crux basically takes the cult and he moves them to the Patchwork Lands. And his line of thinking here is that he is going to have the group work for all of the barons and all of the mercenaries that operate in the Patchwork Lands for a period of time to earn enough money and power so that they can do their own thing. And so that's exactly what they do. Basically, for a decade, they kind of rent themselves out, essentially, as mercenaries themselves, providing arcane guidance and power to all these various power groups that operate in the Patchwork Lands. But finally, after about a decade of doing this, Rathran feels that they had acquired enough wealth and power to stop doing that line of work and do their own thing. So he takes his cult and he brings them to the hills that reside within the center of the Patchwork Lands, and from there it's not really clear here. It kind of says that they built their tower, but it also says they used their magic to raise the tower. It actually says right here, the Kabbalists combined their magic and raised the occlusion from the dusty soil. So that to me suggests or states that they used their magic, probably in conjunction with what they pulled out of the book, to raise this tower out of the material of the Patchwork Lands, and it becomes this massive tower stretching up into the sky that either they call the occlusion or that is called the occlusion, because I'm thinking that maybe they didn't create this thing, maybe they summoned it, or maybe it was a thing that was that exists elsewhere, but they recreated it using the magic and the resources of the Patchwork Lands. I don't really know. It doesn't really say here. I guess you could kind of elaborate on that yourself if you want. I kind of see this as they summoned this tower and created it brick by brick, or stone by stone, or whatever, using the material here, but the tower itself is almost an entity unto itself. So that's that's the way I'm reading it, and that's how I'm going to present it in my campaign. Okay, so this is their headquarters now, and they move in, and they just spend however much time you want to grant them in using this tower and the manuscript for all of their alien experiments, all their forbidden experiments with alien magic and communing with alien gods and things like that. But basically what happens here is that they, of course, go too far, and they inadvertently awaken these alien entities that are responsible for the lore and the power that is contained within these pages. And so they understand. And let me back up a little bit. Basically, what Crux and his followers are ultimately trying to accomplish here is immortality. They want to live forever, and so they believe that the book, the manuscript of the Black Sun, is their tool to accomplishing that. So that's what their experiments are geared towards. Ultimately gaining immortality. So they spend, they could spend centuries here if you want them to. But at any rate, they ultimately succeed in finding the secrets of immortality, but they inadvertently awaken these alien entities. And doesn't really state what the alien entities are. They could be Cthulhu and that whole that whole group of alien gods from the Lovecraft universe. They can just be aspects of the Demon Lord. They could be the Demon Lord himself, just different aspects of it, or him. It doesn't really go into detail here, so you can make what you want of it. And I haven't decided yet. I'm thinking that these alien entities are going to be aspects of the Demon Lord that have broken away from the Demon Lord, but are still connected with him. So they're kind of like his agents. But yeah, I mean, they would essentially be the Lovecraftian equivalent in this world. So that's what happens. And so once they realize that these alien gods have awakened, and the Cabal of the Black Sun, which is now what they're calling themselves, are responsible, then it's kind of lit a beacon here on Earth for these alien entities. So the Cabal knows that it's only a matter of time before these alien gods descend down on Earth and tear it apart or remake it or whatever. So they start freaking out at first, but then they begin thinking that, well, if they prove themselves worthy to these alien gods, then perhaps the alien gods will see them as a valuable tool to retain and to use when they arrive in whatever their purposes end up being. So, this is shit that only a crazy cult could come up with, but, it makes sense to them, so why not? So that's their purpose, and so now they spend their time trying to create magical, monsters and stuff that would make these alien gods consider them to be valuable servants. So that's basically the background of the Black Sun manuscript and the Black Sun Cabal, or the Cabal of the Black Sun. So that's the first portion of the supplement. Now we go into some detail, and it starts with the occlusion itself. And here's the picture. And it's fantastic artwork here. This tower just kind of stretching up into the sky. It talks about the occlusion, how it appears, and some of the history behind it. but it does not go into a floor by floor, room by room detail. There's no map of the occlusion. It basically states that it's filled with the living quarters and laboratories, cells, just everything that the occult or that the cult would need and use in order to do their experiments and all that stuff. And there are 13 members of the cult, plus you have other disciples that come and go, and you have their creations. So this tower has to be fairly big, and it looks pretty big here. So, but there's no map. So if you're wanting to adventure here or use this tower, you're going to have to create the map yourself, which I'm cool with. But that's going to entail some work on the part of the DM that wants to use this supplement in an actual adventure. So it talks about exploring the occlusion, and it talks about not only the things that are included in the occlusion, but also in the surrounding land. So the land surrounding the occlusion is filled with monsters called the Misbegotten, which are basically failed experiments. There's also a bunch of other monsters, which we'll get to in a little bit. But you got the stats for the Misbegotten and mobs of Misbegotten. So these are fairly low-level creatures that could cause problems for a low or a novice tier or a low expert tier group. So Misbegotten are difficulty 25, and then you have a mob of Misbegotten, which could is difficulty 100, which is definitely more challenging. So then you go into the actual occupants of the occlusion, which include Rathren Crux. Rathren Crux was the first to attain immortality, but his body paid a terrible price, one which few would dare match. So he is pictured over in the picture that I showed at the beginning of the video, and you can see that he is essentially attached to this throne, and he's got all of these spikes that are penetrating his body, and these spikes are how he retains his immortality, and he basically siphons the life force and also whatever vital fluids from the bodies of people that are sacrificed to him. So he has servants that goes out, kidnaps people, brings them here, and connects them to some kind of machine that is in the or that is below this throne, and these spikes basically feed this stuff from his victims up into his body, and that's what keeps him alive. So as you can see, he looks like he's been alive for a while. So I'd say he's at least a few centuries old, if not older. And I don't recall reading this. It's kind of suggests here 1,000 years of darkness. I don't know if that means that the Cabal has been working their stuff for 1,000 years, or if it is suggesting that there'll be 1,000 years of darkness when the alien gods come. I think it's the latter, because of the fact that the people believe that the Black Sun manuscript was written by Ashrakal, and Ashrakal was in he was around about 1,000 years ago. The time doesn't add up right there, so I think that this is a more recent. So I'm going to say within the last couple hundred years is when this cult found the Black Sun manuscript and formed and moved down here to the Patchwork Land. So they've been working for a couple hundred years. So Rathren Crux would be a couple hundred years old at least, and then it talks about his matron, his mother. His mom was really hard. That's one of the things that drove him as a youth to become the master of magic was his mother. His mother was one of those domineering personalities that nothing he did was ever good enough for her, and so he constantly strove to master everything he tried, so that he could get acceptance in her eyes. But he could never quite accomplish that. So he pretty much had kind of a love-hatred thing going with her. So when he slaughtered his family, he killed her as well. But he kept her body, and he used his magic to bring her soul back from hell and trap it in her undead body, which he basically reanimated using magic similar to what he uses to keep himself alive. There's these bronze pins that basically hold her spirit trapped within this undead body that she walks around in. She serves him, and she's pictured here as well. Very, very creepy. He has Black Sun thralls, which are just basically people that have been enthralled to be his servant. And they do his biddings, and basically they're his messengers and his servants and that sort of thing. So those are normal people for the most part. Difficulty 5. So they do have some abilities here, but they're not all that challenging. And then you go into the 13. So the 13 are the Cabalists that came down to the Patrick lands with Rathern Crux, and it doesn't go into all 13 of them here, but it does mention 5 of the more colorful members of the Cabal. Asherata, who's obsessed with hell and its exquisite torments. Balamesh the Flayed, who flayed the skin from his body for some weird reason. I guess it helps him focus to constantly have that pain. So, okay, whatever. Silent Tartouche is another member, and then Azula the Rapturous. Is that 5 or is that 4? 1, 2, 3. That's 4. So 4 of the Cabalists are kind of described here. But they only have one stat block, which you would probably want to modify slightly for each one of them, just to kind of give them their own flavor. But they're somewhat equal in power to each other. So I actually forgot to mention the stat blocks up here for Rathern Crux. So as you can see, Rathern Crux, his difficulty is 250, as is his mother and all of the Cabalists. So although combined they are all fairly powerful, individually they are difficulty 250, which would be challenging to an expert tier group. Maybe a low master tier group, but I don't think that this group would challenge the master tier once you start getting to like 8th, 9th, and 10th level. So that's why I'm suggesting that this should be an expert tier resource for you rather than a full campaign. So anyway, Rathern Crux and the Crux Matron are outlined here. You can see he has a power of 6. Lots of various spells at his command, and even though he's attached to this chair, he's got a lot of power, which is outlined here in a stat block. And I'm not going to read through that. You're going to have some reason to buy this supplement, and there's lots of reason to buy it. So I'm just not going to sit here and read it to you. But he's pretty potent as a villain. And then you have the 13, and they also, being difficulty 250, have some pretty powerful stuff. They are power 5, so they can definitely cast some nasty spells at you all. At your parties, I should say. Sorry, I don't mean to talk to you as though you were all my adventurers or my party of adventurers, but I kind of feel like that's the way. That's the way to go. You are all my cult. So there you go. So anyway, What else do we have here? The Black Sun Singer. So during the day, the lands around the occlusion are pretty quiet and barren, but at night, that's when all of the monsters emerge from the caves and the hills surrounding the occlusion. And the Black Sun Singer is one variety of monster. They basically make this weird singing sound out of their face holes, and so it kind of makes the area even more creepy. The Krung are a monster created by the cultists to serve as guardians. So they guard all the entrances in the place. Security is handled by the Hood. Now, the Hood is a monster that was originally presented in the core rulebook for Shadow the Demon Lord, and they go into how the hoods were actually created. So this cult was actually responsible for the creation of the Hood, and describes how the Hood are created, and actually has a picture of them, which was lacking in the core rulebook. And actually, this is not how I had envisioned them myself. When I envisioned, based on the description in the core rulebook, I envisioned that their whole head had been replaced by a dome of fluid that had these lamprey-like eels swimming around in it. So I actually just kind of put like a Mysterio head on a dwarf body when I drew the tokens for the hoods. But now you can see that that there are that the dwarf faces still remain, and just the top of the head and the back of the skull were replaced by the dome. But I'm going to say that my version is just as cool as this, if not cooler. So I'm going to say that both versions can be correct. I just need to draw another version of the Hood, just so that we have a lore accurate version in my Bloody Token sets available for you to use. Okay, so you got the hoods here, and the hoods are difficulty 25. Then you have what's referred to as Megpi. Now, Megpi are basically spies that have the bodies of ravens and the heads of porcelain dolls. That's not creepy at all, right? So these spies just kind of fly out into the world, and they spy on various things for the cult. So, and I'm thinking that this is how the adventurers will learn about the cult and will find their way to the Patchwork Lands, probably through interaction with these Megpi. All right, and then you have the Scran. The Scran are these maggot-like creatures. They're size 1. That are created basically as a result of, experiments and such. These things have kind of formed in the land surrounding the occlusion, and they've kind of made their way out into the Patchwork Lands, and sometimes the barons and mercenaries that live in the Patchwork Lands have to deal with these things because apparently they reproduce rapidly and can become quite a bit of a problem. So the adventurers might be hired to rid a baron of their Scran problem. But at any rate, Scran are difficulty 1. They're not that tough. So that would be good for a novice tier, or maybe even a starting tier adventuring party to deal with as a problem. Tatterdemalions are also creations of the cult. They are created from discarded body parts. So all the leftovers from these various experiments just kind of pull themselves together and become tatterdemalion. And there are the spirits that animate them are kind of trapped within the bodies. And it talks about how the adventurers that fight these creatures could potentially get an ally by freeing the spirit that's trapped within a tatterdemalion, and maybe get information about how to fight the Cabal from these creatures. And then it goes into Black Sun Disciples. So this cult is active in the Patchwork Lands. It sends out spies, and presumably it looks for people to bring within its cult, to grow its power. And so people learn about the Black Sun manuscript. They learn that it may be located here. They make the trek to the Patchwork Lands. They find the occlusion. They are welcomed in by the 13 as disciples. If they're worthy. If they're not worthy, they just become servants, or they become fuel for Rathren Crux's immortality. But at any rate, those that are good enough end up becoming disciples. So you have stat blocks here for Black Sun Disciple Leader and for Black Sun Disciples themselves. A leader would be difficulty 10, and then a disciple would be difficulty 1. So one thing that you could do to introduce this into your campaign in the novice tier would be to have them have your party come across a Black Sun cult that's working still within the Empire somewhere, or still within the Confederacy, or perhaps has even branched out into the Northern Reach, and that's doing some research for the Greater Cabal. And maybe that's how they discover that the Cabal is located in the Patchwork Lands, and that they have the Black Sun manuscript. So there's lots of information here that can fuel an early campaign to get you into the Patchwork Lands in the expert tier, so that you can run all the cool shit here. So then we are starting to wrap up the supplement with the treasures of the Cabal. So in addition to creating all of these abominations, they also have spent time creating magical objects, either for them to use or for use by their servants, or by the alien entities that when they arrive might find that these enchanted objects are useful to them for one thing or another. Whatever the reason for their creations, this occlusion is full of magical treasures. So it talks about that here in these paragraphs, and then the last couple of pages, or the last page of the supplement, goes into the enchanted object properties. So, just like in the core rulebook, it doesn't give you actual pre-created magic items. What it does is it gives you magical properties that you can place on objects. So you can either create your own enchanted objects and tailor them to your need, or you can randomize it like it suggests in the core rulebook. I personally would do both ways. I would create specific magic items or enchanted objects that make sense, and then create a bunch of weird ones that make no sense whatsoever because they're just randomized. So that's how I would use this. But I would fill the occlusion with enchanted objects using pretty much everything that is here. Okay, so that's pretty much it. That is the supplement. Again, this is a fantastic supplement, worth every penny, and I'm not even sure how much it's going for on DriveThruRPG, but whatever it's going for, it's well worth it. There's just a wealth of stuff that you can use for a campaign here, or if you just want to use them as as a cult in your existing campaign, you can plug and play as you feel fit using the stuff that is in the supplement. Just wonderful stuff. And in addition, you can mine this supplement for all kinds of lore and all kinds of monsters that I've mentioned while reading through this. But I've kind of listed all the things that I found in this supplement that can be used to world build. So just from a lore perspective, you've got several relics, several locations, a number of NPCs and organizations and power groups that are named and can be used to name drop, to flesh out in your campaigns, however you see fit. I mean, there's just just great stuff here, and I plan on doing all the above. And then the Cabal itself has it has the occlusion. It has a great villain, Rathren Crux, and his mother, his weird undead mother, And then 13, it's got the Black Sun Thralls, it's got the Black Sun Singers, it's got the Monstrous Guards that are Krung, it's got the Hoods, it's got the Spy Constructs, it's got the weird Maggot Scrans, Tatterdemalions, Black Sun Disciples, and Enchanted Objects. So this is all of the stuff you can mine just from this one product. So if I haven't sold it by now, then I got nothing else. If this stuff doesn't appeal to your vile natures as Shadow the Demon Lord Dungeon Masters, then you're playing the wrong damn game, and you should go play Monopoly or something. So anyway, that's all I got. But fantastic stuff. Highly recommend it. And I'm definitely not only going to use this in a campaign, but I'm also going to start probably for my next token set. Most likely going to base it off of this supplement, because I think I could come up with at least, see, there's 13 Cabalists, so there's 13, 14, 15. Thralls would be 16, the Singer would be 17, Krung would be 18, the Hood would be 19, the Constructs would be 20, Scran 21, Tatterdemalion 22, Disciples 23. So yeah, I could easily squeeze a full set of tokens out of just this supplement. So I'm currently working on a set right now, so I can't get to work on this right away, which means that I'm not going to be able to run this in a campaign right away, which is okay, because I think I want to take my time with developing this one and putting it together right. So I may do a campaign this year based off of I talked about it a couple of videos back, either Queen of Gold or another campaign that I'm calling the Tales of the Demon Lord 2. But this may end up being Tales of the Demon Lord 2. If I do the Queen of Gold, I'll probably make this Tales of the Demon Lord 2, have this supplement encompass the first or the expert tier, and then just build up to it with some adventures in the starting novice, and then capstone it with the master tier. But I'd have to come up with a end game villain for this campaign, which would most likely have to be an alien entity that finally made it here first. All right, now, all of that to say, when I first went into reading this, I was positive that this was linked to the shadow event known as the Black Sun. So the Black Sun is in the core rulebook, and it's expanded upon in the Hunger in the Void. But it basically is the shadow eclipses the sun, turning it black. Impossibly, light still emanates from the shadow disk, but is brown, sickly, and unwholesome. The sun's gentle warmth becomes a hellish furnace, destroying life as the landscape becomes a bone-strewn dust bowl. So, in my meta campaign, I am envisioning the Black Sun as being like the penultimate campaign in my meta campaign. It's basically what's going to physically destroy or ruin Earth before the Demon Lord actually penetrates the barrier separating the void from this universe, and actually starting to consume and reclaim his essence. So the Black Sun is like a big deal to me, and I'm planning on featuring it in a full campaign. So I was pretty excited when I read this, and when I first bought it, I was thinking it was connected to the Shadow event, but there's no mention of the Shadow event in this supplement. I don't know if that's by design, but I don't know why it says Black Sun Dawn and no mention of the Black Sun event. So Mr. Schwalb, you got me a little bit confounded here, but I think what he is saying is that you can use this Black Sun manuscript any way you want to. You can have it ruin your world any way you want to. But I think he thinks that it is the cause of the Black Sun Shadow event. That is what I'm believing here. So I think that there's actually either a ritual that causes the Black Sun event, or one of the alien entities that is summoned, that has been awakened, is the Black Sun, or the veil that covers the sun. Kind of like, I think there was a in the DC Comics many years ago, there was a crossover event that blackened out the sun. And I bought a few of the issues. I didn't buy the whole crossover event because that's bullshit. But anyway, the sun was blackened out. Superman was weakened. But it was this entity that was basically covering the sun, causing and feeding on the sun. So I think that I will have my Black Sun event be something similar to that. It will be an alien god that comes to feed on the sun. Again, it'll be part of the demon god that has breached the I cracked myself up. That breached the barrier early and is starting to feed on the sun. And that, again, is a direct result of the Black Sun manuscript and this cult's activities. Anyway, that's how I'm going to tie those two things together, because it only makes sense. So, at any rate, that's pretty much it. That's all I got. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up my video here. Thanks again for watching over the last few weeks. Since my last couple of videos, I've gotten a number of additional subscribers. I appreciate that. I'm still well under the 500 subscriber target that I'm shooting for. But I hope that my continuation of these videos and your assistance in propagating those videos out into the world of gamers hopefully will garner me some additional followers, so that I can get some additional bells and whistles out of YouTube and liven this channel up a little bit. But for now, I'm kind of stuck doing these videos my way. So yeah, I'll do what I have to. So anyway, that's it. That's all I got. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you on episode 70. I wonder what that's going to be. I don't know. Anyway, I'm out.